is Joy News Prime.
A warm welcome to all our viewers across Ghana and the world, especially those watching on ABN television across Europe. This is your new look, refresh Joy News at 8. Now, Joy News Prime. Coming up, Trade Union Congress reiterates its objection to privatization of electricity company of Ghana, insisting that will not solve the current energy crisis. Parliament joins friends, family and political admirers to commemorate 50th anniversary of the death of Dr. J.B. Dankwa, one of the key architects of Ghana's independence. Meanwhile, MPs failed to live up to a commitment to be punctual to the House just a day after it resolved to do so. On the occasion of World Cancer Day, with a message that anyone can catch cancer, we hear the story of a survivor. And residents of Bawe, a suburb in Accra, out of frustration over the poor nature of their roads, rename one of them after President Mahama. There'll be sports also coming up, business and international news in the next 60 minutes. My name is Israel Lai, and this is Joy News Prime.
This is Joy News Prime.
Now, very first story, the Trade Union Congress has reiterated its stance against plans to privatize the electricity company of Ghana. The privatization arrangement is one of the conditions under which the U.S. government is extending some $500 million to help address Ghana's energy crisis. The TUC, however, says privatization is not the answer and that government should rather inject some efficiency into ECG's operations and ensure the institution gets all the inputs it requires to work.
The TUC says although it appreciates government's efforts to address the challenge, it is not satisfied with the slow pace. It, however, insists privatization is not the answer.
And we need to ensure that what is needed to be provided, ECG is provided, what the kind of input that they needed, and also some injecting efficiency in the system generally is what we are all looking for. Government has outlined some areas which, as a result of the funding requirements, they will have to go. But we all have to be very careful that we deal with it effectively. We are not convinced that the answer really lies directly in the area of privatization of any of the energy companies.
The TUC General Secretary is, however, not saying how far they will go to stop any moves to privatize ECG, explaining they are yet to get firm word from government on the issue.
We are yet as Labour to be clearly made to appreciate what government's intentions are. There are some indications which have not been tabled appropriately. We thought that the way, they said it's not privatization, it's injecting of private participation in the ECG. If we get to know the real situation, we'll react. But for us, we think that this energy thing have to be looked at properly and do not think that it is purely just privatizing the ECG will be the answer. I do not think that the government will go that way.
The Ghana Employers Association is meanwhile also equally dissatisfied with the numerous unfulfilled promises to fix the crisis.
We are not satisfied until we have the full complement of power that is needed for production. So we will continue to engage, we will continue to draw the attention of government on the need to really quicken the process. It's very, very important. Otherwise, businesses are going to suffer and suffer big time. We appreciate the enormity of the task. The energy needs of the country is increasing, and maybe this thing should have been done some 5 years ago. But here we are. We understand that there are challenges, but we need to really look at how we can think outside the box and ensure that we respond positively so that the availability of energy will be resolved in the shortest possible time.
Abigail Adomakunchi for Joy News.
Friends, family and political admirers are commemorating the 50th anniversary of the death of J.B. Dankwa, one of the key architects of Ghana's independence struggle. Dr. Dankwa died in detention at the Nsawam prisons after falling out with the country's founding president, Kwame Nkrumah. In Parliament today, lawmakers paid tribute to the memory of Dr. Dankwa, described in many circles as a doyen of Ghanaian politics.
Nana Joseph Kwame Chirechire Boachi Dankwa was a Ghanaian statesman, Pan-Africanist, scholar, lawyer and a historian who played a significant role in pre- and post-colonial Ghana. He is credited with giving Ghana its name, which was formerly Gold Coast. J.B. Dankwa was one of the opposition leaders during the First Republic under Kwame Nkrumah, who was imprisoned and died in detention at the Nsawam medium security prisons on February 4, 1965 without trial. His grandson and current MP for Ebuaka North started off the eulogy.
At the ripe age of 32, JB was ready to take on the colonial masters and the system, and for the next 20 years, JB devoted his life in amending the colonial constitution to allow Ghanaians and their chiefs to have a greater say and autonomy in the running of affairs of the country. One of the greatest achievements was the legislative union under the Ben's constitution that brought the Ashantis and the colony together. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we could have found ourselves like India and Pakistan, or the Ashanti Kingdom would have been like today the Kingdom of Swaziland.
Oseche Mensah Bonsu stated J.B. Dankwa started the fight for independence, adding that Ghanaians, especially Parliament, should not lose the sight of what he stood for and fight to resist dictatorship.
We'll be very pleased to read the contributions of Dr. Dankwa, which now flower those hands. The Speaker, one would glean the depth of wisdom, native wisdom, intelligence in his own contributions. And, Mr. Speaker, of his advocacy for property ownership. It is instructive that we apply ourselves. Mr. Speaker, today we have a constitutional guarantee of this. And indeed, Article 36 plus 7 adds an additional fillip to this. 36(7), Mr. Speaker, again with your indulgence, I'll read. It provides, the state shall guarantee the ownership of property and the rights of inheritance. Property ownership. Long after, 50 years after, we now see the essence.
Majority Leader Alban Gbagbe also urged Ghanaians to publish the contributions of people who have in diverse ways contributed to the development of the country.
Encourage all Ghanaians to try and come out with some records of the contributions of the great sons and daughters of our country, so that it doesn't look like it's just one area that is always talking about itself. But I support the view that if you don't love yourself, then who will love you? Mr. Speaker, I was just urging Ghanaians to do the same for us to get to know more about our past. And from there, we could learn lessons in order to improve the present and the future.
Other members, including Atachia, Fritz Bafo, Isaac Osei, and Papa Osu Ankuma, in their submissions called J.B. Dankwa a hero who deserves to be celebrated. Interior Minister Mark Woyongo has meanwhile explained the decision to turn down the request by the family of J.B. Dankwa to visit the cells he was kept in at the Nsawam prisons as part of activities to mark his 50th anniversary celebrations. He said it was upon the advice of the Ghana Prison Service and National Security Council. His explanation came after MP for Ebuaka South, Samuel Atachia, expressed disappointment over government's refusal to allow the family visit. Sitting continues on Thursday.
Right, we have on the phone line now Latif Idrisu. Joining us is Latif Idrisu, and he's attending a memorial lecture in honor of J.B. Dankwa, who died 50 years ago today. He joins us on the line. Good evening to you, Latif. What can you tell us about what's being said at the memorial lectures?
Yeah, this memorial lecture marks the 50th anniversary of the demise of Joseph Boachi Dankwa. And today we have lots and lots of dignitaries here from the NPP. We have former President John Adekunfufor here present, the flag bearer of the NPP, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who has already delivered his speech. We have his running mate, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. The leadership of the NPP basically are all well represented here, with all the parliamentarians of the minority are all represented here. Now, we have speeches from Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who basically, one key point that came out from Nana Akufo-Addo's speech was that the NPP and the Dombo tradition has forgiven Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and his followers for what he calls atrocities that were caused during the time Joseph Boachi Dankwa and J.B. Dankwa was in prison. They today have forgiven the CPP and then Dr. Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah for all what they called J.B. Dankwa. And that was one key moment here that I think must be commended. But then just after that, the irony is that just after that speech, then came Professor S.K.B. Asante, who came to do exactly the opposite. He was, saying all sorts of things against, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and I thought that wasn't the best, actually, because Nanado said they've forgiven the DPP, and now you came in to do exactly the opposite.
Okay, thank you very much, Latif. Would like to leave it there, and I'm sure you bring us up to date with exactly what transpired at the place later. We're watching Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. Now, it's a promise no one asked them to make, but members of Parliament returned from recess on Tuesday, brimming with promises and pledges to end their tardiness and report for duty on time. Less than 24 hours later, MPs were back to their old ways. As Emmanuel Ante reports, proceedings today were delayed by well over an hour.
Parliament will usually commence proceedings from 10 a.m. and close by at least 2 p.m. on days there is no emergency bill that needs to be attended to. But proceedings on Wednesday, February 4, did not start at 10 a.m. At 11:15, there was no sign the House was getting ready to start business, with just a few members reporting to the chamber. Proceedings eventually started at 11:20 with a handful of MPs who were available. With members devoting time to eulogize the departed, deliberations on the actual business of the day came down to just about half an hour. Wednesday's incident raises questions about the MPs' preparedness to follow through with the commitment they made to aggressively clear the backlog of cases they have to deal with in the current session, especially as there aren't so many days for sitting in the first meeting of the third session. Leadership of the House would have to be firm in their resolve if they are to succeed. Emmanuel Ante, Joy News, Parliament, Accra.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away. Health professionals and activists around the world today threw the spotlight on one of the most feared diseases on the planet, cancer. Various forms of cancer kill thousands every year, and many cannot even afford the cost of treatment. But as the World marked Cancer Day today, the message was that cancer is not beyond us. But is it really? We look at the story of one gentleman who fought and beat the disease.
It all began with an unusual and uncomfortable feeling for Christopher Puku.
It was quite early. I noticed that there was blood in my stool. Initially, I went to the hospital and they misdiagnosed it as piles. I took medicines for 2 weeks. I realized I was weakening, I was losing weight. They referred me to a surgical consultant and they realized there was a tumor in my rectum after I had done a colonoscopy. And so the prognosis was for me to remove it. I was told by the medical experts that they discovered it really early, so I was lucky.
He says early medical intervention saved him.
I had virtually all my treatment at the Confanochi Teaching Hospital, and I'll never forget Dr. Joseph York, who operated on me, and then the hard-working team of doctors at the oncology department. It was tough. But one thing is for sure, we have doctors who can actually do the business in this country, and I think such medical doctors need help from the government. They need funding, and cancer also needs funding. It's so expensive. One chemotherapy treatment, a cycle, will take you about 2,000 Ghana cedis, if not more. And I had to go through 6 of those. Then you have to go to radiotherapy, which cost around 13,000 Ghana cedis, which I also went through. So if I'm just one person, there are several people suffering. And the fact is, if you're not careful and you don't get this treatment, you might end up losing it, of course, with the help of God. So I do believe that cancer can be dealt with this country, but we need to avoid eating junk foods. We need to avoid eating fatty foods. These are some of the things that unknowingly bring the cancerous cells in our bodies.
So what are the risks involved, and how can one tell a cancer is developing?
For the different cancers have different symptoms, but the general one, sometimes there's unexplained weight loss, there's loss of appetite, sometimes there's a swelling, let's say a lump in the breast, a lump in the abdominal area or the tummy, sometimes there's a lump in a joint that is just not going away with. If it is very uncomfortable, it is painful, you have treated it several times and it is not going, it is time you sought medical help.
Yet, many wait till their condition is fully developed before seeking medical attention. Public health expert Dr. Ifwakomi shares some tips on healthy living.
You might not have it now, but it's a way for you to go get screened. If you screen, then you can be picked up. But then unfortunately for us, because the alternative forms of medical care are so widely available in our country, people think that you go to the hospital only when everything else fails. That should not be the case. It should rather be your first point of call. When you find something that you're not comfortable with, go to the hospital and be reassured that it's nothing, or oh, it's something and something can be done about it. When you go to other places, people go to these prayer camps, they go and sit there for weeks and months on end. And by the time they come to the hospital, the cancer would have spread or gotten out of hand. And unfortunately, and there are people who also, you're applying some kind of herb, but it's not getting better. It's a way for you to seek medical care and be diagnosed as early as possible.
From all indications, cancers are not quite the death sentence we have always feared they are. Early detection is key to survival. Matilda Pumaga, for Joy News, Accra.
Well, the Health Ministry is set to develop a new roadmap to help in the fight against cancer. The National Cancer Strategic Plan is to outline the key strategies and interventions needed for the management and control of the major cancers in Ghana.
The burden of cancer in Ghana is projected to increase due to aging, rapid urbanization, and unhealthy lifestyles. According to recent estimates, about 16,000 new cancer cases are recorded in Ghana every year. Cervical cancer led the pack in 2014 with 3,000 cases. Majority of these cases are presented very late, leading to high death rates. In an effort to control and prevent cancers, the Ministry of Health has developed the National Cancer Strategic Plan, which outlines the key strategies and intervention in battling the condition.
The first thing that the strategic plan is seeking to do is to improve the way that education about cancer and health-seeking behaviors for cancer are disseminated to people. So people go to hospital, the health facilities earlier, get screened earlier. To do. The second thing it's spelling out for the various levels what is to be done at the lowest levels of healthcare, what is to be done at the district level, what is to be done at the regional level, culminating in the two centers of excellence, the Konfanochi and Kolebu National Cancer Centers, and apparently there's a third one, which is a private one. So at each level, there's a description of what can be done for the patients to ensure that the chances of survival are higher. So
The WHO country representative, Dr. Magda Rubalu, called for multi-sectorial approach to help fight a cost-effective way of dealing with cancer in Ghana.
The government, civil society, the private sector, all stakeholders need to work out to educate every citizen of this country about seeking early care through the adequate health facilities. But you mentioned the issue of high cost, and that's where government needs to work harder. Government is already working, but we need to work harder to bring costs down so that cancer treatment is affordable to every Ghanaian, wherever they are.
The Public Health Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Bedusa Akodie, however, says discussions will soon begin on developing a cost-effective approach.
That efforts are being made to be in contact with those manufacturers of those medication, that they should consider means for reducing their cost, then also looking for new ways of going about things which will be affordable to the general population.
World Cancer is commemorated annually on February 4 to raise awareness on the various types of cancers while advocating global action to control the epidemic. Matilda Pomaga, for Joy News, Accra.
Peace has finally returned to Charia in the Wa municipality after the feuding factions decided to put aside their differences. The community has for close to a decade been caught up in a protracted dispute over who has the right to the Charia chieftaincy. The Catholic Church's Peace Council, which brokered the peace, held a church service to celebrate the reconciliation. Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam sending this report.
The protracted dispute in Charia was between two royal families who could not agree on which of them has the right to the skin. But after close to a decade of debating, the two protagonists in the dispute, Na Michael Bisigi Baga and Na Corina Batagra, have decided to smoke a peace pipe and pave way for development in the community. The mediation process was championed by the Catholic Satellite Peace Council, headed by the Bishop of the Wa Diocese, Dr. Paul Bimile. A mass organized to celebrate the end of the dispute was attended by some individuals and sub-chiefs from the Wa Paramountcy, as well as elders, opinion leaders, and members of royal families from Charia and neighboring communities. Spokespersons from the Tindanba, Thomas Muindi, announced that the two feuding factions have seen the need for peace in order to bring development in the community.
He has stepped down, giving part to Michael Dambamo to be the chief, and he has accepted to follow. Any other person who was following him, fighting for him, he has subdued. The rest of them who are supporting him, she also subdued.
The Bishop of the Wa Diocese, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Bimile, was excited the two former sworn enemies have come together in the interest of peace.
Even the wound, when it is healed, there is still a scar. It is that scar which needs now to be covered and make the whole body as if there were no scar or no wound at all. And I'm happy you have promised that. So if you lie to me, you are going to be destroyed. A prophet speaks to you and you lie to the prophet, what will happen? Destruction.
The leader of the two gates spoke to Joy News shortly after the Mass.
We're Catholics. I'm a Catholic from Xavier, the school, where the bishop is. And the one I was having the conflict with, they are also Catholics. And so now that we have come together, even with our presence together in the church together, exchanging goodwill, people will emulate us and come in. We will never let peace escape us again. Peace is our yardstick, because we know that with peace, the developments that we are asking for, we can get them. Without it, we can't get them.
Rafiq Salam's report from Wa.
Junior high school students who are unable to pass their basic certificate examinations can now have a second chance to get it right. The Education Ministry, in partnership with the West African Examinations Council, has launched the Private Candidate BEC. This, the ministry hopes, will eliminate obstacles many basic school leavers face in pursuing higher education.
In terms of the numbers, as many more people be going to secondary schools, we want that to happen. We think it's more costly for the nation when younger people do not get further education. You know that right now we are constructing even more secondary schools. Okay, so we are also anticipating the number of people who might qualify. Currently, we even have thousands of people, between about 40,000 regularly, if you go back to the statistics, who qualify to go to our secondary schools, but who don't have any chance, who don't have any space.
If successful, the move will increase the number of prospective candidates qualifying to enter senior high school. This will certainly put pressure on the already burdened senior high school system. But the Education Minister is confident there will be room for the anticipated increase.
We have is a secondary education improvement program. Okay, and this project goes beyond the new schools, and we're also looking at the old schools. Actually, we've selected about 50 of them. We did a whole long study to determine which 50 they should be. We also have another 75 for improvement. Sometimes also it may not necessarily be a building or an equipment. It may be the teachers need a bit more of capacity building. You heard the subjects that are popular with this exam, math and English. I'm very happy to tell you that we've also noticed that these two subjects are stopping many people from moving on, not only with BEC, with WASI, with the university, with polytechnics and so on. So our response is not so much to say that we are lowering the entry requirements. Our response is to see why aren't the students passing.
In all, 1,181 candidates have registered for the 2015 Basic Education Certificate Examination, which starts nationwide from February 16 to 2015.
Residents of Bawe and Accra are disappointed about what they say is a shoddy construction job done on a section of the roads in their community, a stretch which was constructed about 3 months ago. According to them, is already deteriorated, leaving many of them wondering the kind of specifications stated in the award of the job to the contractor.
A portion of the Bawe Quarter Road, the main street in the community, and the Palace Street are among the few that have been tarred. That was just 3 months ago, but the poor finishing is already visible.
So tax money, no, what did you check? I find somebody else I can why this car baby. Sha, shit. Quite on my we are quite. And I said one more gun is kind of moody. Or say other urban race and as I race from one more check. Almost a can be answered, even as one apartment that one may answer on the balance.
One resident has an interesting explanation why the Palace Street in particular has been nicknamed Mahama Road.
A fan of Mahama Road.
I don't know a fan of Mahama Road.
Sir, roadway on my yellow. Says any good time for me to be Johanna, engineer by yourself. Like I'm some be here, a crumble by Gusu Kotam Mahama, faster be commission electricity at the way. It has my cinema, I say no by some Omobabe Gusu, no day, quota be Basavia Begusama. I don't have 1 5 indeed 2 months in Pona, Quana, till and put on as a cry, some we got I was in. Omanya in Sotana, I had in Sunam, I say I had
and Mahama Babe Commissioner, dear Nana.
Buy it.
And to more chance of Meanwhile, other roads linking the Bawe community remain rough and dusty.
I had a new one, but from here, no, I look a Palace Street, then I have to call 0 house. But 0 house Dutch in the road and cut 2 to 0. And look up him, your friend, how do you call it? Dutch in so that's Tabulem Junction. From there, no, and Cobium. And after the Akani on Ty Road and the car here. and your difficult to do a problem wapa and I the answer the Omudifiase and Omadeko and so and copim Jama and so Omuya copim slow asa. My drivers know a lot of problem waha Omu Nyakwa and park even at all. From here and also a Blue Cross on Soprano, they perceive a lot of problem waha I empower.
One sure thing about the Gbawe roads, though, is that they've all been assigned names as directed by the president. Never mind the Pali Street, for instance, is quickly been renamed after President Mahama for an interesting reason.
This is Joy News Prime. We'll be back with business shortly.
To get you updated in the world of business, I'm Abigail Adomakuenchi. Now, the process to establish a new national occupational safety and health policy has begun with the expectation it will be passed into law in the next 3 months. The policy will absorb and replace the existing Factories, Offices and Shops Act 1970 and all other outmoded acts on safety at work. It will also ensure comprehensive coverage of all sectors and ensure compliance to laws guaranteeing the general well-being of workers.
4-day advocacy training of identified personnel to be change agents for social partners on ensuring occupational health and safety at work begins the process of having the draft policy in place. Labour stakeholders explain the existing legislation on safety, health and well-being of persons at work, which includes Mining Regulations 1970 and the Workmen's Compensation Act 1987, are outmoded and limited in scope.
We have some legislation now, and this goes back to 1971 when we passed the Factories, Offices and Shops Act. And since then, about 45 years down the road, the world of work has changed. So the health, safety and environmental legal framework infrastructure has also changed to cope with the changing requirements, gadgets, equipment, production processes in the world of work.
The World Health Organization says occupational risks account for about 850,000 deaths and 24 million years of healthy life lost annually, and for them a policy such as this will maximize productivity.
Apart from the laws, we need to have a policy, a national policy that should serve as a guiding pole towards the work of occupational health and safety. And you know, these laws are extremely important. If you have a safe working environment, it will help maximize productivity. It will also lead to the well-being of the ordinary people. Most times people go to work and then suffer the kind of occupational diseases which are not even, which does not even come out while they are at work. It can be in the office, anywhere you work. There are some hazards occupationally that we needed to control. But because the law is not comprehensive, it's not been very much effective. We also appreciate the fact that enforcement has not been done the way it is.
Government also assures to push the bill to be passed into law.
The ministry will do everything to ensure that the OSH policy and the bill will be finalized and submitted to the review committee of cabinet shortly. It is the minister's wish for me to let you know that government is deeply concerned about the unacceptable rate of collapse of buildings, frequent fires at workplace and factories, as well as other fatal industrial accidents over the years. For this reason and the reason stated earlier, it justifies government's anxiousness to see the passage of the bill and the adoption of the occupational safety and health policy by all.
The draft bill, which was developed in 2009, should be making its way to Parliament soon to be passed into law.
Now away from local labor issues, the head of Brazil's state-run oil giant Petrobras and 5 senior executives have resigned in the wake of a huge corruption scandal. Maria da Graças Foster's departure follows the arrest and testimony of some 3 dozen executives at Petrobras and many of its suppliers. The board of Petrobras is due to meet on Friday to elect new executives. The scandal involves alleged price-fixing, bribes and kickbacks, which implicates Brazil's ruling party. Prosecutors have uncovered around $800 million in bribes and other illegal funds. More than 200 businesses are being investigated, and more than 80 people, including 3 former executives from Petrobras, are facing possible charges. And now to North America, where shares in North American car giant General Motors have risen after fourth quarter earnings that exceeded analyst expectations. Shares in the firm rose more than 3% to about $35 per share after GM announced quarterly profits of $1.1 billion. GM said it intends to increase its dividend in the second quarter by 20%.
Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. We're just getting the statement from the presidency, and it has to do with one of his appointments, or one of the key men at the presidency. It reads that a statement signed by the Chief of Staff, Prosper Bani, has formally announced that Ben Doche Malo has concluded his one-year contract as communications advisor at the Flagstaff House. He has been on a one-year contract which began in January of 2014 when he joined the Flagstaff House Communications Bureau as an advisor and spokesperson for the president. Having completed the term of the contract, Mr. Malo is returning to the United Nations, from where he had taken a one-year leave of absence. The statement said until further notice, the Minister for Communications will now serve as spokesperson for the president. The Flagstaff House Communications Bureau will be responsible for all other communication operations and functions of the presidency. It goes on to say that additionally, Cabinet Secretary Mr. Roger Ansongwene has been asked to act as secretary to the president. He replaces Dr. Raymond Atogoba, who returns to the University of Ghana at the end of a 2-year sabbatical leave. These changes, according to the statement, are part of changes which will be taking place at the Flagstaff House over the next few days. Right, so the statement essentially answers speculations, or responds to speculations that have been made in the last few days about some movements at the Flagstaff House. Now, this statement confirms 2 things. First of all, Ben Doche Malo, communications advisor at the Flagstaff House, is leaving the job, and then it also indicates that Cabinet Secretary Mr. Roger Ansongwene has been asked to act as secretary to the president, and he replaces Dr. Raymond Atogoba, who returns to the University of Ghana at the end of a 2-year sabbatical leave. He goes on to say that these changes, according to the statement, are part of changes which will be taking place at the Flagstaff House over the next few days. We will be watching the development, and we will certainly bring them to you as and when they happen. Up next, we bring you international news. Guinean goalkeeper Nabi Atara says he has no regret and won't apologize for his violent challenge on Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan during the quarter-final game on Sunday. Atara was giving his marching orders by Zambian referee Sikezwe after that vicious attack, which could see Gyan miss the crucial semi-final clash against host Equatorial Guinea on Thursday. But Nabi Atara is unperturbed about the incident and says he would be surprised if CAF sanctions him. Really?
If he seek the game, it's not my fault. I do for kick the ball. If I lose the ball, and it's that. If the CAF suspends me, the CAF, but it's not intention for do that. If I lose, he scores, and it's normal. I go to take the ball. Is that apologize? Yeah. It's not. No. Because it's not intention. If I do apologize, it's intention. Yeah. It's not my intention for do the bad thing.
All right, meanwhile, in the ongoing AFCON tournament, Ivory Coast beat Congo by 3-1. We have the highlights for you. For our game tomorrow. FA President Kwesi Nyantakyi meanwhile admits the Black Stars' triumph at this year's tournament will be a major plus for his administration as head of the Football Association. Nyantakyi concedes this consistent failure has been a major psychological barrier in its administration once he is very eager to come tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to a performance beyond the semi-finals. You realize that our last 3 or 4 semi-final campaigns have not been successful. We have attributed it to psychological issues. So the technical team has been tasked to unravel the mysteries surrounding our inability to go beyond the semi-final. And I believe that Coach Avram Grant is well equipped with all the tools that he needs to really go beyond the semi-finals. This time, we want to do well. It includes winning the trophy, and I hope it shall come to pass.
Meanwhile, FA spokesperson Sani Idara says the Black Stars are fully focused on the task ahead.
Well, the boys are prepared. They are trying to work hard, as you can see, and we'll be prepared. Mentally, we are prepared. We came here to play one match after the other. So one match is done, we concentrate on the next one. The team is prepared.
Monetary issues have been a massive distraction, like you told me earlier in the tournaments. It doesn't look like we're hearing anything unfortunate in that regard. Is it a case of good management?
Well, good management and good lessons learned in the past. This time the players themselves have also said that we don't want to talk about money issues, because before they left the country, the captain himself said that they've left all money issues in Accra, sorted in Accra. So when they come to the tournament, they are coming to play football. So here now, there's no money issues. Focus is to get Ghana where we deserve.
Right, then that'll be all for sports. Now, aspirants in the March 3 district level elections are stepping up their campaigns with just a few weeks to the polls. In the following report, Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sori speaks to a visually impaired mother of 3 who is upbeat about being elected assembly member for the Tongo Bio electoral area in the Talensi district.
It's a Hamatan morning at Tongo Bio, a small electoral area southeast of the Upper East Regional capital, Bolgatanga. The area is a scattered settlement with houses built from mud. Peasant farming and petty trading are the predominant occupations in the area. Going around the community, there isn't much to show the community is preparing for the forthcoming district level elections, except for these 2 campaign posters Joy News sighted on trees in front of the house of Mavis Ayimpoga Atinga. 35-year-old Mavis is one of 2 aspirants contesting the Tongo Bio seat. Her highest educational qualification is a senior secondary certificate. She is visually impaired, unemployed, and is a single mother with 3 children, and this is her first attempt at local governance.
I was born here and bred in Tongo Bio here, so most of my community members, they know me very well. And why I came out is that persons with disability have got the right to contest for any election that we want. And it is even in the Constitution that we have got the right to do anything that we want. So in the way the community always is men, 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 men. So one day Kodak people came out and they were giving us some training. And I decided, okay, if it is because of that, I will also contest and see how best I can also help my community.
Mavis lives in a small house with her 3 children, and despite her impairment, she does the household chores herself. With no financial backing for her race, Mavis is in a fix. But she has a lot of admirers who have pledged full support for her campaign.
She can contest with a man. That's what the saying goes, what a man can do, a woman can do it better. So I believe in her that she can do it better than men.
He is a hard worker. So the hard worker is, he loves school children and women and men in the community. So the way he elected is, she is a person who let these NGOs come and give us some little money for a month. Every month they will come and pay the women. So that is why I like her to stand for to vote for her to win the assemblyman.
Mavis's only contender is 40-year-old Cletus Musa Anaduko, a businessman who was out of the region at the time journeys visited the area. It remains to be seen, however, if the apparent support she enjoys will translate into votes on March 3rd. A report by Albert Sorry.
And that'll be all for the bulletin. Before we go, a quick run through our top stories. A trade union congress has reiterated its objection to the privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana, insisting that it will not solve the current energy crisis. Parliament today joined friends, family and political admirers to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the death of Dr. J.B. Dankwa, one of the key architects of Ghana's independence. But the MPs failed to live up to a commitment to be punctual to the House just a day after they had resolved to do so. And on the occasion of World Cancer Day, with a message that anyone can catch cancer, we heard the story of a survivor. Residents of Bawe suburb, in a crowd of frustration over the poor nature of their roads, have renamed one of them after President Mahama. And the presidency has confirmed the exits of communications advisor and secretary to the president, Raymond Atuguba. So Bendo Chimalo and Raymond Atuguba apparently are no more with the presidency. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel Lime. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.